Salvē, Mike, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 5, verses 1 through 3, including part of the text that I think most modern English Bibles exclude, but Jerome, when he was putting together the Vulgate, included because that was what was available. So this would be Textus Receptus material. I also included it in the Greek, but in brackets. I'll let you know when we come across it. It's only 3 words. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Here is our rubric, everything that we look for as we go through the text. Post haec erat dies festus Judaeorum et ascendit Jesus Hierosolumis. That Y is so difficult to say. Est autem Hierosolumis super probatica piscina quae cognominatur Hebraicae Bethsaida quinque porticus habens in haes iacebat multitudo magna languentium caecorum claudorum aridorum expectantium aquae motum. There we have it. We begin with a prepositional phrase, post haec. Post is going to take the accusative case, and haec is going to be from hic, haec, hoc, but it will be accusative plural neuter, because the feminine singular would be honk. Erat is a verb we've seen before many times. Don't need to parse it again. Dies, die. That's going to be the feminine or the masculine. We have festus here as an adjective. US tells us that in this case, dies is going to be masculine. So nominative, singular, masculine for both of them. Dies changes gender depending on how it's functioning in the sentence. Since we've got a declarative statement and not a time statement, it appears that dies is going to be masculine in this case. Judaeorum, O-R-U-M, just tells us genitive plural, masculine as we've seen before. Owning festus. That's going to introduce a new clause, so I'm going to go ahead and write down the translation of this before we get to Jesus. Post haec, I should have noted, is speaking about the events of chapter 4 and proceeding. And now we're back. We are not a bat. Ascendit, it right there for the third person singular. But what tense is it? For that, we're going to have to look at the Greek, because this is ascendo, ascendere, ascendi. So the perfect and the present tenses have the exact same form. In our Greek, we have the verb anabe, which comes from anabino, with the epsilon right there and the shortened stem right there. We know that it's going to be a aorist tense, which is in the past tense, and the only equivalent that Latin has is the perfect. So ascendit is most likely going to be intended as perfect. I don't think there's a variant in the text for anabe. And then Jesus, we don't need to parse. He's functioning as the subject of the sentence. Hierosolumis, we have our is right there of this irregular plural neuter word that I have in the past called indeclinable. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I forget. But with the is right there, we have a dative or ablative. In this case, I think we have the ablative. So it would be like, you can't really do ablative of place to which. So it has to be ablative of place where. So Jesus ascended in Jerusalem is how we're going to have to put it, rather than into Jerusalem. And verse 2. Est autem Hierosolumis. We've got another is right there, so it's going to be another in Jerusalem with the ablative plural. And then we have another prepositional phrase. Well, Hierosolumis is a locative. That's what's going on. Correction. Forget about locatives. Oops. Super plus probatica piscina. Both of those are going to go together. So that prepositional phrase ends right there, probatica, because it is an adjective, but it's a Greek. It's an adjective drawn from the Greek, because Latin doesn't have this word. And instead of probatica, what Latin would have to do is take oves for sheep and change it into some pertaining to adjective, and I don't remember how Latin does that, because the tika right there is a Greek ending, or possibly it's an ending that Greek borrowed from something else. But super in this case is going to be taking, I think that's taking the ablative. because piscina, a feminine noun. And there's only one pool. So yeah, got to be taking ablative of place where again. Quae referring back to piscina, so this is going to be nominative singular feminine as well. We still haven't got our verb. But cognominatur, atur, there we've got the tur ending of the present stem. So third person singular. Urus tur is going to be passive and indicative. So cognomen is one of the Latin words for name. So it's is called. Hebraike, we've got our E right there telling us that this is an adverb. And this type of adverb just tells us the category of what the thing is being put into. So it is being called. It is called in Hebrew, and then we've got the name Bethsaida with that hey is going to be nominative singular feminine, but I don't think Bethsaida declines. So I'm going to put index there. We still don't have our verb, so I'm going to go ahead and translate parse these, and then go back through to the beginning and translate the whole thing. Quinque is our Latin word for five. Porticus, I think. Yeah, porticus is a fourth declension, so us right here is going to be nominative. No, can't be nominative. It's habens, ens right there from habeo is going to be the nominative, referring back to Piscinia again. So porticus has to be the object, and as a fourth, the us is also the accusative plural ending, quinque modifying that. I'll write all that down, write the translation, and then I'll jump back to you. I realized that I forgot to say what a piscina is, and then I wrote down gate, remembering it's not a gate. And there was something else that I forgot to mention. Oh, est. I completely skipped over est. We did have a verb the entire time, but I just ignored it. So, the other problem that I realized when I realized that I didn't say what piscina is, that probatica isn't modifying piscina, but instead propatica is standing substantively for the sheep gate, but piscina is its own thing. Piscina is the subject with est, so nominative, singular, feminine, while probatica is the object of super. Could still be ablative, could be accusative. Doesn't make much sense for it to be accusative because it would have to be placed to which, but sheep gate is stuck where it is. I'm going to leave the word gate in brackets, since it doesn't have a actual corresponding word in the text. Okie dokie. On to verse 3. In his, prepositional phrase right there, Jakobot can't be part of the prepositional phrase, so it closes off. Must be plus ablative. And this is going to be referring to the porticus, because porticus is plural, but the pool is only singular. So as I look at the Greek, we've got in tautais at the beginning of Greek of verse 3. In tautais is feminine, which would need to because in Greek the word for portico or arcade is stoa, and stoa is feminine. So yeah, that makes sense. In this case, it's going to be ablative, plural, masculine, referring to porticus. And mind you, arcade is not what we would call arcade back in the 90s. I don't know if arcades are still called arcades these days. Anyway, so in the colonnades, in the arcades, Jakobat, third person singular, imperfect tense, active and indicative. We've got singular there with multitudinous. This is going to be nominative, singular, feminine. We know feminine because magna is modifying it. A great multitude. And then we have the genitive of, I forget what the specific name that the grammar is given, but it's like the genitive of description. Something along those lines. Jakobat means lying. Languentium, I-U-M right there. Notice we got langueo, languentis in the genitive singular. I'm really tripping over my tongue today. Apologies. But this is going to be a present active participle. So I'm going to parse all of it except for the genitive plural masculine when I go through and just translate the entire thing. This means those who are weak, and the way that we would read that is sick. I think Greek functions the same way with asnenunton. Kaikorum, another O-R-U-M, for genitive, plural, masculine. This is kaikus, so blind. Claudorum, same form as kaikorum. And this one looks like shut, but it has more to do with the feet, so it's crippled or lame. I don't know why they use the word shut for that, or a word related to shut. Maybe I'm misremembering shut. That's probably more likely what's happening. Aridorum, so this word is definitely related to the word dry, and normally it means dry. But in this case, what they're talking about is like the legs and the arms are dry. So there's the person who's shriveled up. All the moisture has left their skin and their muscles, and look stretched, like they've got parchment for skin, and it's somebody who's paralyzed. And then we'll come to these last three words, which are our textus receptus words later. So there we have that. Expectantium, I-U-M right there for another genitive plural. This is going to be masculine plural, also a present participle. Expecto, expectare. So I'm just going to pull this down right there. It's going to be modifying all of these together. So that one is the same as the other, so I should write that right there. Aquae, A-E there could be genitive singular, dative singular, nominative plural. It's not going to be nominative plural. We already have our subject. Genitive singular makes the most sense. Owning then motum. Motum, U-M right there for accusative, singular. And this is from motus, motus, a fourth declension, and this one is masculine. Porticus isn't masculine. Sorry, it just struck me. You can't really tell with fourths unless there's an adjective modifying them, or you actually look at your notes, which I just did. Motum, that one is masculine. And it just means motion. It could come from moeo, moere, moui, motum. So it could be the perfect passive participle. But I'm going to go with the noun because we've got a fourth. Why not have another fourth? And you can't really tell. So there's that. Write down, expectant. It means what it says. Or it means what it sounds like. Expecting, awaiting. And then the next page, verse 4, the textus receptus part of verse 4 will explain why motion of the water. What probably happened, I think is the theory, is that you got all these people lying around this pool and the conversation going on with Jesus, and a scribe comes along like, where? People in the future are going to look at this and go, why is this happening? And the scribe knows the legend because he's much closer to the time when all these things were happening. He's like, they're waiting for the motion of the water. And so he writes that down just to remind people about the legend, who would also have known about it within the few decades after this happened. And so he adds in, expectantium aquae motum. And then a generation or two later, another scribe comes along and he reads that and like, why would they be waiting the motion of the water? Nobody would have any idea. But since he's a student of history or something like that, he would know that it's talking about the angel coming in and stirring the water, the legend about that. And so then he adds that into verse 4. Anyway, I think that's the theory behind why these are in textus receptus, but not in textus criticus. That being reference to the Greek. And the Vulgate, of course, translates the textus receptus. Now I'm going to write all meaning down. And there we have it. Let's take a look at it in its own context. After these things, there was feast day of Jews, and Jesus went up in Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem, over Sheepgate, pool which is named in Hebrew Bethsaida, having 5 porticos, 5 colonnades. In these was lying a great plethora of being sick, of blind, of lame, of withered, expecting motion of water. There we have it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. Wale.